Okay, so now we're going to go over the basics of rewiring, which is ambitious, and I said I wasn't going to do this, so we're just going to go over the basics. So your blade is broken, and you've established that it needs to be rewired. The wire's either too short at this end to connect to the socket, just because you've repaired it so many times, or it's broken at the socket because you put it together wrong and you smashed the wire, which is shame on you, and you shouldn't have done that. You just made more work for yourself. Or it's broken along the blade, or it was determined to be broken up in the tip, with either the brass cup is gone from in the barrel, or your barrel got so loose that you were able to unscrew your entire barrel and your barrel fell off. So, among other reasons, something else could be going wrong and you don't know how to fix it, and so you just decide to rewire. So the first thing you want to do is we have to get the old wire out. So rather than just pulling on it willy-nilly, something you can do is you can take a pair of pliers and grab the wire right by where it comes off the blade and just roll it to help kind of roll it up, and you'll have actually better success with getting larger pieces of the wire out rather than just the ripping technique. Obviously, you've taken all the stuff off the end first. Same thing can be done at the top. You've untaped it, you've taken the barrel off, and now you're left with the exposed wire stub. So you can just grab it with the pliers and then just roll the pliers along there, rolling up the wire. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't, depending on how well the wire has been glued on. Okay, so that being done, you've done as much as you can to get the wire off just by pulling on it. So now what you need to do is need to put your blade in the acetone tank in the cage, and let it sit for a couple of hours. Either put it in the morning and it will be done or ready to be flipped by practice in the evening, or you can put it in overnight. So put it in at a night practice, after a night practice, and you can come back and deal with it after morning practice, if practice schedules still work like that. Okay. If the acetone tank is like only half filled, you can either pour more acetone in, if there is any, or you can let the acetone dissolve the glue for half of the way and then pull it out, wipe it down, and then invert it and let the acetone eat away at the glue the other way. Either way is fine. And then, so at the end, you should have a clean blade. You want to make sure that the groove is completely, all of the old glue and wire is gone from the groove, and so you can just take a small screwdriver and place it in the groove and just kind of run it up. Oh, there's a sticky spot. All the way, just to make sure that's clear. Because if you do have stuff in there, then the wire won't be able to get down safely into the channel, and then it'll be poking up above the blade, and as soon as you try and fence with it, it'll get whacked by the other person's blade when they parry, and it'll break the wire, and you'll have to rewire it again. So just do a good job of cleaning out the blade now, and you'll save yourself time in the long run. So our blade is clean. It's dry. There's no acetone left on it. The next thing you want to do is hunt up parts. So you have your wire from Sid. Good. Congratulations. That'll take you like a week to get. And then you have your old barrel. Something you want to make sure of is a lot of times you want to make sure that the plastic cup is not still in the barrel. So a lot of times when you take it off, you'll still have the black plastic in there. So you can use either a very fine screwdriver or a needle and just stick the needle through the hole and just poke it through, and it'll come off. You need to get the plastic thing out of there, otherwise you won't be able to get the new wire in all the way, and then you won't be able to after you put in all the work of rewiring it, you won't be able to get the tip in, and then you'll be frustrated. So just always make sure that you can see all the way down to the metal in there, shiny metal down there. Awesome, good. So the next thing is you have your blade, and now you want to make sure that the barrel is going to screw on nicely and securely. Sometimes there's variations between barrels and old blades, and the barrel will screw on not nicely or not securely, in which case just try a different barrel. It's just an issue with threads and specifications lining up. The threads are pretty loose on this blade, so I'm not sure I would rewire this for competition, but I'm just going through the steps here. The learning blade. Okay, so you have the barrel, and you have your blade, and you have your wire. You need super glue on hand. The type of super glue to use is the liquid stuff, not the gel's harder to use and it doesn't spread as well, so I'd stay away from that. But it's going to come in the little tube. It's going to be a couple bucks. They used to sell it at Cityco. They might still, but you can get it at CVS. Get it in the liquid type, not the gel. There's no need to go like fancy Gorilla Glue. That's just harder to work with. So stay away from that. Glue. It's going to spread easily, but we'll get to that in a minute. So your wire. Your wire can kind of be a mess. So protect your wire like it's your firstborn child. Okay. So we're going to carefully unwind it. This connection between the wire and the cup is just a little solder connection, so you don't want to stress that. Because you can weaken it now and then it'll break after you've done all the work of rewiring it, and then you have to do all the work of rewiring it again, which is not fun, so don't do that. So we're just going to tease this out. You can see how it has some kinks there. Looks like some sort of heart monitor thing. And now, so we're just going to get it kind of straight, and then grab it at the top, and then just pinch the wire to get it straight. Just run your fingers along it. Actually, this is a little bit off the charts of what usually happens, but my cup is a little tilted in there, so I was just going to try pushing it down. This one has a flaw in manufacturing, just with the brass cup not being centered. It shouldn't pose too much of a problem, but I just poked at it with a screwdriver to try and get the brass cup to seat down a little more. I've also had this wire for a long time. So if you notice something like that, there's no harm in like poking at it to try and get it right. In this case, I did get it to seat down a little bit more evenly in the black plastic cup. But we're going to go back to straightening the wire. Okay, so the wire is straight. It's all nice, like. Works for us. Okay, so usually you guys are going to have the luxury of doing this with a vise, but I don't have a vise in my apartment. So I'm actually in Pittsburgh right now. I graduated from BC in 2016. And I'm in Pittsburgh. So you're going to start by threading your wire through the barrel. Make sure that you thread it through the barrel the right way. You want to put it down the top, not up from the bottom. Otherwise, you'll just have to do it again, but it'll be pretty clear. Okay, so do it so that there's about 2 inches sticking out the top. As you notice, you should be able to like move your barrel up and down pretty easily. It shouldn't catch on anything. Okay, and now you're going to take the wire and lay it into the groove at the top of the blade, and then just kind of like float it down until the barrel comes along. And then you're going to want to just finger screw your barrel on very nicely. Your wire should still be in the groove. The main test for this stage of rewiring the blade is whether or not you can pull the wire back and forth easily. Just pull it back and forth easily. That's how you make sure it's not pinched, it's not caught. Nothing bad is going to happen at this stage. So Now we still have this 2 inches sticking out. You can see that the wire is on my face. And so you're going to take your barrel tightening tools, because this is where we tighten the barrel down for the first time. So you're going to grab it with the pliers right at the edge here and right here, and you're going to give the barrel a good twist. And you should be able to like take a couple of twists on it. Nothing bad's going to happen. And the tighter you get it now, like the less likely you're going to have a loose barrel later. You don't want to go like crazy rippingly tight, otherwise you could like crack your barrel or something, but good and snug is sufficient. As you can see, we can still move the wire up and down smoothly, which is key. That is key. Okay, so you can't fence with the little wire hanging out like that. You can see it's on my nose. So you need your handy dandy screwdriver. And you're going to do 2 things at once. You're going to pull from the bottom, and so now that the cap is just sitting at the top, you can see that the up close and personal. You can see that the cap, I'm using my face as contrast, but you can see the black cap. Turn you away from the light a little bit. The black cap is sitting right at the top of the barrel. It's a little crooked right now. It can't be crooked once it's down in the bottom area. So you're just going to want to push it down. Yep, you're just going to want to apply pressure with a screwdriver and also pull on the wire. So push it all the way down, and you should reach a point where it's not going to go any further. You should be pretty familiar with this distance. It's the distance that you put your stuff in the barrel. Okay, so you push pretty firmly on that, and you always want to keep tension on the wire. So push from the top, keep tension on the wire. Next, technically we're ready to go, but because this has bitten me in the behind a couple of times, is what I always like to do is take a spring and a tip and make sure that they fit all the way in. Okay, actually, we are going to distract from what we are doing right now. When you're selecting your barrel, you want to make sure that your tips fit easily in and out. See, like this one, it's kind of captive, and you really have to work at it to get it out. Could just be a tip problem. Oh, here's another tip. Okay, this one goes in and out very nicely. So this is a good barrel. You'd want to use this one. Because I'm just doing this as a demo video, I guess I'm not in an armory setting, so I didn't check that before. But you always want to check and make sure that you're, see, this one doesn't go in very well. It like only comes out here easily and then takes like wrenching. That could be due to a dent in the barrel. It could be due to a tip. So you just want to be careful with that. Make sure that all your parts fit together in the dry run before you go committing to a wiring the blade. All right, so back to behind the scenes note, I just switched the barrel because I realized that the tip wouldn't go down all the way. So we're going to check and make sure that everything's going to be okay once we finish with the rewire. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one tip. We're going to take a tip. I put the screw in, or the spring in, and now I'm going to take a tip. And now I'm going to make sure that it's going to go down all the way. See how it goes down all the way? You need to make sure it goes down all the way. If it's just like that, I know limitations, but there's a gap there. It needs to go down all the way, like you're fully depressing your tip. If it's stuck, it can be for multiple reasons, like the plastic cup is still in there from last time, or you didn't push it down all the way, or the barrel's dented. In general, you'd rather know that sooner rather than later, so that's why you check before you've made the commitment of glue. So then you just want to fish it out of there, and we're good to go. So you push it down, you tighten the barrel, everything's good with the tip. So now what you're going to want to do is find tape. Okay, this is black tape, just like what you'd have in the cage. Just want to tear off a strip. So mine's already torn in strips because we've been using it for tip tape once upon a time. Tear off a strip about this long. It doesn't need to be much longer than that. Mine is split at the bottom just because it was already split. So just stick that on the bench next to you, or table, as it may be, because this is what I use my kitchen table for. And I have to clean up all my tools before I can have dinner. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to look at the bottom of the blade. So we have 3 key areas here. We have the area that's squared off and pointy. We have the rounded area, and we have the threads. The different lengths of these are going to be different for each blade. Also, quick note is this blade is not bent, so it doesn't have a tang to it. So if I were doing this in the cage and actually committing to glue, I would not be rewiring this blade without bending it. You can bend it after rewiring it. Anyways, okay, so we have square edges, we have a little bit of rounded, and we have threads. 2 areas where you don't want to wrap your wire are the corners and the threads. The threads will cut your wire. The threads will just outright cut the wire that you just worked so hard to get in, so don't wrap it on the threads. The corners will also just outright cut your wire that you worked so hard to get in. So the goal is you want to wrap it on the rounded part. This blade has the shortest rounded part that I've ever seen. So what I can do 2 things to remedy that. And I think what I'm going to do is use the tape that I just ripped off that was going to be used to secure the blade. I'm going to take a little bit of it and I'm going to wrap it around the what little roundy part I have and the threads. I'm going to hopefully wrap it a couple times just to give, So I'm going to wrap it around the threads just to give the wire cushion, because now I can't feel the threads through the tape. The threads are no longer going to cut my wire. In my 4 years, somebody had a teammate rewire their blade. They wrapped the wire on the threads and cut the wire, and then Linda didn't have a blade for the tournament, so we all just kind of shared. Moral of the story, don't wrap your wire on the cornered part or on the threads. So now that you still have your tape here, we're going to stretch the wire. You need to stretch the wire and stretch and secure the wire before you glue it down, because when the blade bends, the metal bends, but the glue and wire don't bend if they haven't already been stretched. So we have to stretch to allow for the blade to bend without the wire breaking. Important step. How important depends on who you ask. So I put my thumb hold the wire in my 3 fingers, put my thumb against the edge, and I just bring it down. I'm applying pressure and tension. You can see the wire is taut. Use my other hand, hold it in place, hold the tension with my thumb there, wrap the wire, and I wrap it around where it comes down. And I wrap it around, so I'm wrapping it over itself, and 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 all the way until the end of the wire. Don't let go with your thumb, because you always want to keep that tension. Okay, and now I'm still keeping the tension on there and not letting go until I replace it with my other finger. So now I'm holding the tape and the wire. So I'm going to go around with the tape, wrapping in the same direction that I wrap the wire, so that the tape is kind of almost pulling it tighter. And I'm just going to wrap all the way. And you've done a good job because don't try and put the wire into the groove, because once you bend it, it'll go naturally, but you just want to make it so there's some tension there. So you can kind of like snap it against the blade. So now what you're going to do is, you know that board in the cage where there's all the holes on it? You're going to bend the blade in that board. So you're going to put one, so you're going to put one end of the blade in one hole, and then you're going to put it the other, and so you're going to bend it so it ends up like this. And it's going to hold there. And then you're going to want to start trying to figure out how to park this without like killing myself or the chair. Okay, so you're going to bend it like this, and then you're going to take your super glue. Use this is our super glue stand-in, and you're going to want to, first you want to look up and down the blade, making sure that the wire's in there and that it all looks nice, because looking down back and forth, I can't see anywhere where my wire is out of the channel, or if the channel is too shallow and the wire's exposed. So that's a good thing. So you're going to take your glue and you're going to start from the top of the blade. The board should be vertical, by the way, or like leaning up against the tool bench. Don't do it flat. Yeah, just lean it up against there. Probably, yeah. So you're going to start right at the most bent part of the blade, and then you're just going to want to make a thin line of glue, thin trail of glue. The glue is actually going to spread quicker than you think it will. You want to leave about 6 inches at the tip. In your first gluing run, you want to leave like 6 inches at the tip and about 8 inches at least at the bottom. So you're going to glue it like that. Do the first layer of glue. Make sure it's all good through there. And if like the glue misses a spot, it's not the end of the world. You can just go back and glue it later. In the first round of gluing, we don't do the top like 6 inches and 8 inches because the glue will run. After this is set up, after the glue is set up for about 7 to 10 minutes, so you know it's not going to run any more than it already has, then you can go back to the top and do all into like an inch below the tip. Let that set up, and you can do all until like 2 inches before the bottom and let that set up. And when you come back in the morning, you can do the last inch, like the last inch at the tip and the last 2 inches at the bottom. That's just, we give that buffering distance. I'm going to undo that because it's hard to hold. We give that buffering distance because if the glue gets into the tip because you put a lot of glue on, then you essentially super glued your tip on, so you can't get it off to fix it. And if it's bad enough, then it will have disrupted the connection of the brass cup. And at the bottom, your glue can run down and super glue your wire to the handle, wire to the blade, like right where your handle needs to go. You can't do much when you super glue the tip on. You just kind of like have to use it, and if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then you just got to rewire it again. But at the bottom, what you can do is say that, okay, so I put way too much glue on and it seeped down and my entire spool of wire has been super glued to my blade. Sucks, but it's not all over it. You just have to be patient. One thing you can do is utilize the acetone tank and just stick the bottom in there. So like you can use it kind of as a dipstick and figure out where the acetone level is and where your blade how deep in the tank your blades needs to be in order to have the glued on area soaking. And you just let it soak for a couple hours. Come back and it'll be, let the acetone evaporate, and then it'll be all dried off and you can try again. You'll still want to kind of stretch and rewrap the wire, but it won't be as crucial because most of the wire is already glued down. That being said, you don't want to go hog wild and put the entire blade in. You definitely don't want to put it tipped down. Never put it tipped down if you are still trying to salvage the wiring job. Always put it base down, but you don't want to have it dissolve like half the glue. You only need it to dissolve like the bottom 5 inches. How I would recommend doing that is there's the acetone tank, and then you can tape your blade to the tool bench or tape it to something else right by it so that it's at the level it needs to be and it stays there. It doesn't fall in. And then come back in a couple hours and pull it out, let it dry. Pull it out, unwind it to make sure that all the glue's been dissolved. And then let it dry, and then tie it off again or tape it off again, and just do more, glue it again. Soaking it in the acetone isn't going to do anything bad to the wire. Do not try and fix the problem with heat or sandpaper or a knife. It will not turn out well for you. We also had that happen in our 4 years. It was also like the morning of a tournament, so don't do that. Just be patient. And yeah, once the blade has been put together like that, you can put the tip together as normal with spring and tip and screws, tape it up, and you will want to put the base of it together. Just it's been shown in another video with the bell guard, socket, pad, handle, and then lock washer and nut. When you are putting it together, make sure that all the notches line up and that the wire is in the notches and not being squished between the bell guard and the socket and the handle. Because then you have to do the rewiring process we just did all over again and you feel like an idiot. But if you follow all these guidelines and instructions, you should be pretty much good to go. But if not, I love fixing blades, doing armory work, so I'm always happy to answer questions. I've seen a lot of the ways that stuff can go wrong, and how to fix it, even if it involves like making it work, like the different ways to stitch your stuff together until it works. Yeah, and good luck, and go Eagles, right?